Welcome, friends, to another Wolff Responds. I want to call this one the inheritance tax, or the estate tax, as it's called in the United States, an immense scandal. Let me explain what I mean. And I'm going to do that by reminding you what the whole point and purpose of an inheritance or estate tax always was. Here in the United States, there's been an endless effort by super rich people to get rid of the inheritance and estate tax. Why? Because they actually have large inheritances because they're rich and they want to leave it to their children so that they'll be rich. Okay, here's the problem, and that problem is as old as civilization. Either you have a society where everybody starts more or less in the same situation. Everybody has, quote, equal opportunity, or you don't. You can have a level playing field. That's when we all start with about the same resources, and then we achieve as much as our capabilities and our energy and our attention enable us to achieve. Or we don't. What do I mean by or we don't? We allow some people to start with a lot, to start with all the resources they could imagine, and maybe many more, to help them at every step of the way, to do better than the people who are starting with no resources or very few. If we have unequal resources, we have unequal opportunity. And then the outcome means that those who had more resources can often outdo those who had none, not because they worked harder, they didn't, but because they had more when they started. They weren't on a level playing field. Theirs had advantages. The point and purpose of an estate tax or an inheritance tax, or what the enemies of it tried to call it, a death tax, was to say, whatever you earn while you're alive, you get to keep. You just pay the same taxes everybody else does. But when you die, what you have accumulated is taxed. And why? So that your children are on a level playing field with people who aren't rich and who cannot leave resources to their children. You have to do that if you're committed to equal opportunity, to a level playing field. Otherwise, you're a faker when you say those things. You don't care about equality. You don't care about democracy. You don't care about equal opportunity. You want your kids to have more opportunity, more of whatever there is. That's a fundamental decision each country has to make. What laws will be passed imposing what kind of inheritance or estate tax on their people? Having said that, I now want to compare the United Kingdom, Great Britain, on the one hand, and the United States on the other, so that you can all see how gross the United States' inheritance tax is compared to the British. And by the way, the same comparison applies to many other countries. Here we go. I'm going to start with the United Kingdom, Britain. Do they have an inheritance tax? Yes, they do. Just as we do here at the federal level. By the way, about a dozen states in the United States, just so you know, have a state-level inheritance tax. So if you die there, your estate is taxed twice, by the federal government at one rate and by the state government at another rate. State government rates of inheritance tax are very low. So it's basically the federal that matters. The state is a small addition. In UK, the inheritance tax works like this. The first 325 pounds, British currency, of whatever you leave is exempt from the inheritance tax. You can leave 325,000 pounds, which would be the equivalent of 442 US dollars at the current exchange rate. In other words, the first $442,000 worth of property you leave when you die passes to whoever you want it to go to, and they don't have to pay any inheritance tax on it at all. Everything above 446,000, according to British law, you are taxed 40% of whatever that is goes to the British government. The other 60% to your heirs, the people to whom you give, you leave, you bequeath your assets at the time of your death. Now let me compare the United States, and to show you why the words gross and grotesque apply. So let's begin, and I'm going to be using the numbers that apply for the year 2025, the year we're living through right now. What is the amount of money that an American can pass to whoever he or she wants, their heirs, the people they're giving their assets to at the time of their death? How much are they allowed to leave? Answer: $13.99 million per person. Whoa, that means that a couple, a married couple, can leave to their children $13.99 million twice, for a total of 27.98. The maximum 2 times, one for the husband, one for the wife. Wow. In Britain, you can't leave more than $442,000 before the inheritance tax kicks in. In the United States, you can leave a total of $27.98 million before the federal inheritance tax kicks in. No comparison. The inheritance tax in this country was once quite like the British. I remember when I was a very young man, once looking into this as a student, studying it, and I think it was the 1960s, the amount that you could leave before the inheritance tax kicked in was $600,000. Today, it's $13.99 million. That is an incredible increase. And you know what it means? It means that the rich keep their money in their family, that the overwhelming majority of people rich today are rich because they inherited it. Oh, sure. Are there some actresses that started poor and made a lot of money? You bet. Are there some athletes? You bet. Are there a lot of politicians who tell you that? You bet. Are there some for whom it's actually true? Probably. But these are all the exceptions that get the attention, not the rule which you now understand. We once had an inheritance tax. It didn't go so far as to make a truly level playing field, But it went part of the way. It's still part of the way in Britain, but it isn't in the United States. That's why the United States has become so unequal an economy. Because if you had a proper inheritance tax, if we had one like we used to, or if we had one like the British have today, then money would be taken from the super rich, still leaving them very well off, but that money would be available to the government to help everyone. And that's how you get closer to a level playing field than doing what we do in the United States. We don't have a level playing field. We have a lie. And did people in England leave and come to America? That's what rich people like to tell you. Oh, if you tax the rich, they'll leave. Have they left England in large numbers? No. Did they come to the United States, which is a much better place to be a super rich person? The numbers are trivial, a handful. It's a fake excuse. The reason they don't want you to raise the inheritance tax is that they long ago, the rich at the top of America, lost whatever interest they might have had in a level playing field, in equal opportunity, in all those values we're supposed to take seriously. And they became slaves to the almighty dollar. And that's why the inheritance tax in this country is a gross scandal. If interventions like this strike you as useful, please share these videos with others. Help change the conversation here in the United States. It needs it. And of course, if you can help us cover the costs with a donation, we would be grateful for that as well. Thank you.